Hello, everybody. This is Constance from Mysterious Galaxy. I want to thank everyone. Yes, we're live. I want to thank everyone so much for joining us tonight. I am super excited. We have an evening of amazing romance for you tonight. And slight bias because it's a genre I love, but you can't really get much better than that for an event. So we are here today in celebration of Alexis Daria's You Had Me at Hola. And we've already had one of our owners of the store read it and absolutely loved it. It's got all the good feels. And in conversation with her is going to be Christina from writing duo Christina Lauren. Many of you guys are familiar with them. We have had the honor of having them in the store. And they are also just an amazing group of writers for romance. And we are doing a pre-order campaign with them where you can actually get signed books by them that's on our website. Yes, signed books. And that's for In the Holidays, their new book coming out. And for You Had Me at Hola, you can actually get signed and personalized book plates, which is really exciting during a pandemic where we are all quarantined. So I am going to go ahead and pass it off to our amazing authors. If you have questions, make sure to comment them down below. There is a beautiful where I am Vanna Whiting ask a question button down there. Just hit that and you can ask whatever questions. And if you want to purchase these books to bring some awesome happiness into your life, there's a purchase book button right there. I am going to pass it off, though, and have an amazing event, guys.
Thank you, Constance.
Thank you. Hello, everybody that's here.
Hi, everyone.
I am Christina of Christina Lauren. Lo wanted to be with us, but Wi-Fi is a terrible monster, and so she can't. So I've never sort of been in charge before, so it's going to be a hot mess. And for some reason, I look like I have a pink filter on, so we're just going to go with it. It matches my hair. And to say hello to Alexis. Hello.
Hi, everybody. I'm Alexis Daria, and I am super excited to be here with Christina. I was hoping to be able to do something like this in person, but alas, I'm just glad that we were able to make it happen virtually.
Yes. And this is our first time meeting. I just finished You Had Me at Hola yesterday, and I loved it so much. And also thank you to Mysterious Galaxy for doing this. We usually get to see them every year at Comic-Con, and we didn't get to. It doesn't feel like a summer without it. And so that makes me want to ask, Kristen said that you have been going to cons your entire life.
Pretty much, yeah. I think the first time I went to a comic book convention with my dad, I was 7.
Oh my gosh.
So it's been 30 years.
Oh my gosh.
And I used to go to San Diego Comic-Con also because I used to spend my summers in San Diego and I've got a lot of family out there. So it was just like easy to go. And I haven't the last few years because I was going to the RWA conference instead. And this summer I was determined to go to both. And alas, I have gone to neither.
Yes, since we have stopped seeing people.
Right. It's like never mind.
Can you tell us a little bit about You Had Me at Hola? It's such an amazing book.
Thank you. Okay, so You Had Me at Hola is a story about 2 actors. Oh, do we have Lauren?
Oh, there's Lo.
Can you hear us?
Yay! Oh my God.
Can you hear us?
Okay, hi. Hi, everybody. Keep talking.
Keep going.
Yes,
okay, so yeah, 2 actors who are cast on the remake of a telenovela together, and they do not get off on the right foot, but they have to sell their chemistry on camera. And then, of course, it also starts to burn up behind the scenes for them as well.
Yes. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got the idea for it? Because it's so crazy that there is essentially a story within a story that had to be crazy to write.
So I love stuff that has a show within a show. So it took me a little while to figure out that that was how I had to tell this one. But once I got to that point, that's when everything kind of came together. The idea for this, though, really came from wanting to write about these 3 cousins and that like cousin friendship bond and this kind of big, sprawling, complicated Puerto Rican family in the Bronx that, you know, was reminiscent of my own. So that was the initial story. And then I thought, okay, like one of them has just come back and they're like all getting back together again. What was she doing? And I was like, well, she was coming back from California, because for me, it's like New York or California. Those are the only places that I can really write people from. And I was like, okay, well, she must be a soap opera actress. Like, that was just what I settled on.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it kind of came from there. But it wasn't until I actually had to like sit down and write the scenes where they were working where I was like, oh shoot, how do I show this? Because it would get like boring if it was just like, all right, action, take 25, you know, like over and over and over again.
Yeah, yeah.
So then I thought of these other things that have a show within a show, and they just show the scenes. You know, they don't show the whole thing, but they just show them doing little snippets, and then they cut back to whatever's happening behind the scenes where they're out of character. So I said, okay, that's how I'll do it. And then, you know, just figuring out the actual plot of their show and what was going to happen in each episode, and then just which parts I was going to show on the page.
Okay.
So it's a lot.
I loved it so much. And I have to go back to what you said about her cousins. One of my absolute favorite aspects of the book was the family. I grew up without grandparents. And so getting to see like both sides, like the families on both sides and stuff was, I loved it so much. And you could tell that that was like such a big part of your life. And it just like felt like I knew every single one of them. Just like every minute I laughed, they were just so great.
Thank you. Yeah, it's, you know, I think complicated family dynamics are like something that's going to pop up in all of my books. But, you know, I always try to show like different angles of that, whether it's with the parents or the grandparents, or even in Ashton's case, his grandparents. And, you know, like just getting all of those kind of like generational dynamics too is something that I try to do in books.
There was a line I loved so much. It was something like humiliation only lasts a little bit, but like family teasing like lasts forever. I know I probably butchered that. I don't know what the line is, but it was so good.
I had used that line on a like a promo graphic, and someone was like, that makes it sound like she and the guy are like related, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to use that. But,
oh my God. It's so true though.
Like embarrassment is fleeting, but family teasing is forever. Something along those lines.
Yeah.
I mean,
like I loved every time, like she just knew, like she just kept remembering her grandmother, like putting that article on the fridge because it was a good picture, and that it would just, her mistakes would just always be brought up. Oh my God, I laughed so hard.
Yeah. I mean, I'll admit now, like even just stuff that I had to look up for the book about like skincare and stuff. Like now I still think about it as if like my real grandma had told me that stuff.
Oh, and when you were talking about her earrings, because I had a grandmother that used to yell at me for not, I never wear earrings because I like will take them off and lose them, or I don't like, you know, the way they feel, or so I'll wear the same exact small ones. But it reminded me of my grandmother that always wore big hoops and always had lipstick on. And it was just like such a sweet, sweet thing. But she died when I was 15. So that's like one of the like weird sort of memories that I have. So it was really sweet.
Yeah, that one, that bit of wisdom has been passed down from my great grandmother, who died before I was born, but that still has been told to me. And like, I've been out with my mom sometimes where she's like, do you want to just like put on a lipstick? And I'm like, if I wanted to, I would have, Mom.
See, my mom's the opposite. She's like, there's a lot happening. Can we like... So I feel that. Let's see. Okay. I have some questions from our Instagram.
And if you guys in the chat have questions, there's an ask a question box at the bottom. So you can just write them in there too. Let's try to get to them.
And I know Lo is just at home, just like beating herself up that she's not here. She was so excited. I know she's just like throwing herself on the floor. Okay. Let's see.
Christina Alexis tonight.
Yes, we are. Oh my God. We sound like we're on like Dynasty or something. Okay. Yeah. What are Alexis's favorite telenovelas? Mine was Betty La Fea. Did I pronounce that right?
Betty La Fea.
Okay.
Betty. Yeah.
Oh, Ugly Betty. Okay. Yes.
So I did watch Ugly Betty, and Ugly Betty was what I had in mind when I was putting together the Carmen in Charge show, because I envisioned it as being like a workplace kind of dynamic. And then obviously, then it gets more into the romance of it. Other ones I watched, Jane the Virgin, obviously. I did watch some others like Pasión de Gavilanes, like for research for this. There's also Funny or Die has like a series on YouTube called Telenovelas Are Hell. And they basically do recaps of all of these like older telenovelas that are like, from like the 90s usually, like Marimar and Maria del Barrio and like things like that. Ruby, where it's just like, and then they got married. But of course they didn't live happily ever after because telenovelas are hell. And then it like goes on to talk about like somebody fell through, off the roof, and then somebody else like was in a car crash, and like nobody could be happy and everything was terrible. And then like a witch came, So I watched those a bunch of times as research for this too. But in terms of soaps, like American soaps, I watched Young and the Restless. That one was mine growing up.
I never watched soap operas, but I know that Lo wrote Days of Our Lives fic. And when she was going to college, her mom found all of these like notebooks under her bed where she had been writing fic. And so she's like, I had been writing like fan fiction when I didn't know what fan fiction was. So, and I have to say, going back to Carmen in Charge, one of the things that I loved so much, and it kind of surprised me because we had a book, Twice in a Blue Moon, that part of it takes place on a movie set. And one thing, we talked about choreographing the love scene and stuff, but one thing I loved that you did so much was the intimacy coach. Is that what she's called, an intimacy coach?
I think for TV and film, it's an intimacy coordinator. And
Coordinator, okay.
It's an intimacy director.
Okay.
I don't know why they use a different term in theater versus film, but
I really loved it. It was a way to kind of bring, I don't know if this was your intention or not, consent into, you assume they already have consent, but even in because they're both getting paid, but even in relationships, we can't always assume that consent is there. So is that kind of what you were thinking? Because I loved it so much, the way that you did it.
I actually had different ideas for how this story was going to go when I first pitched it, and what the, how I was going to like throw them together to like get them to work on this chemistry aspect. And a friend of mine who worked in theater said, well, this show would have an intimacy coordinator doing this stuff for them. And I was like, what's that? And she was like, well, here's a New York Times article about it. So I read the article, and then I found there's like a intimacy coordinator, not guild, or, it's like very new, but there is like a group who's like teaching people how to do it. So they had a bunch of stuff online. And I did talk to a friend of that same friend who does do this work in theater. And I read some articles about like some HBO shows and stuff that have had intimacy coordinators. Because, even like, yeah, they're there, but there's still like stuff that the actors don't want to do. And sometimes the directors like will try to push them to do stuff that they have said that they're not going to do. Then there's also something called a nudity rider, which I couldn't get into the book because I found out about it too late, but it's like a very specific negotiation of like what inches of flesh they are willing to show on camera and things like that. Whereas, again, it's a new thing in film. And I think in the past, the directors would just kind of be like, okay, guys, go. And then the actors were like, so to have somebody else there to facilitate that really does make sure that everybody is giving consent and is okay with what's happening.
Yeah, I loved it so much, and I loved that they had like their little signal when it's over to like break it. So it's like we're giving consent, but it's in this little bubble, and then we're done. And I really appreciated it. I liked it a lot.
Thank you. I see in the chat everyone talking about the other primas, and yes, Michelle and Ava are getting books.
Oh yeah, okay. Good question, guys.
That was next.
Let's see. What was your favorite scene, and which was your hardest to write?
My favorite is the scene with the animals.
Okay.
Where they are filming, just because it was so funny. And I could just like really like picture it in my head, and I would like write it, and I'm like, this is like funny. And then the one that was hardest to write, oh my gosh, it's like when Ashton like kind of like finally reveals things about himself, because that happened in revisions too. Like all of the middle of the book happened in revisions for the most part.
I swear though, that's how good books are born. Like we tell everybody, like sometimes you don't know how to do the right thing until you do the wrong thing, and that like great books happen in revisions. Like never be like we always are like, it's a mushy middle, and then we just go back and fix it.
Yeah, that's where the magic happens. My editor was like, okay, this is great, but you skipped over the falling in love part, so let's add that in.
But it's fine. Yeah. And also I find sometimes that like, you know, it's a funny question, because it's like, what is your favorite scene and which one was the hardest to write? And sometimes those can be the same thing. Because I loved the moment when he's sort of like telling, I never know how much to spill, when he's talking about, he's telling her something, but he's not telling her all of it. But then later when he really tells her, is that the one that was the hardest? When he sort of busted?
No, that one actually was in the first draft.
Oh, okay.
That scene, yeah. Linda in the comments thing, when he goes to her hotel room. Yeah. There was a sex scene that I wrote like the day that I turned in the first draft, because I was like, I need at least 2,000 more words, because my agent said that I cannot turn in a draft less than this number. So I'm going to throw in another sex scene.
Which is always appreciated.
But their arc was like kind of already set, and I was like, I can't like progress them further in this scene. So it happens, but then they're both just kind of like, bye. Like, and my editor was like, that scene made me really sad. And I was like, wow, I needed the words. So that had to kind of get reframed. That's the one on the sofa.
Okay.
Got reframed a little bit. But,
okay. I mean, we all appreciate another sex scene. And you know, sometimes going into a book, you don't know like what level of heat the book is going to be. And then you get to a point where you hear a word and you go, oh, okay. All right. Now I know where we are. Okay, let's see. We talked a little bit about this. Was it hard to create two stories to develop at the same time? Did you ever find a point where you were like, why did I do this? Why do I hate myself so much?
At one point, it definitely felt like it would have been easier to just write Carmen in Charge as the book.
Yeah.
I was like, why didn't I just make this the book? This is so easy. But of course, it was because I was only writing select scenes.
Yeah.
You know, without all of like the filler and like the hard stuff.
Yeah, the plot, the feelings.
Okay.
Let's see. We talked a little about this. Where did the idea for the book come from?
The idea of writing about cousins and family.
Yep. Okay. This is a good question. How important was it to you to shine a light on how the hurricane affected the people of Puerto Rico and how it continues to affect them while showing how strong they are no matter what?
That was really important. The idea for this story came to me less than a year after the hurricanes had happened. And with Ashton being from Puerto Rico, like I knew it, like originally that was like such a big part of everything that had happened with him. You know, and the whole, everything else that happens with him in the book wasn't there yet. But then of course more time passes, and I was thinking about like when this book actually comes out versus like when that happened, and trying to like fill in that time for him. Had to make some changes there. But then, you know, as I was kind of finishing up edits and stuff on it, like the earthquakes were happening earlier this year, and I was like, you know, do I try to write those in? Like they're still happening. I don't know what's going to happen with that. Like, but it felt very important and like scary to me. So I wrote something in the acknowledgments instead, but I decided to leave what was there because it is important to me. And it's important to me that people know that this is an ongoing issue and that the government has not done what they need to do.
Yeah. Well, I love how you handled it. And it's funny because this book is so escapist. It's TV, which is where so many of us, and romance, where so many of us, disappear, but you did it in a really great way. And it makes me think of like what's happening right now. We've had conversations with other authors where we're like, is this a thing we're going to include in books, or are we going to like gloss over 2020? Like, what are we going to do? We have a book coming out in the future that we haven't announced yet that has grandparents in it. And when we were first writing it, we were like, people are going to lose their grandparents. Is that going to be like a heart wrench for some people? And and so you did it in such a great way, like that it was like meaningful, but it didn't take you out of that or anything. So I loved it. And I'm curious to know how you think you're going to handle what's happening now in your books. Romance moves so fast. So, I mean, some of us are already like, I have my next 2 books written.
Right. I decided that the books that I had planned the stories for before the pandemic would not include the pandemic, because I thought about trying to make it work, and I was like, none of them work. And I don't want to have to completely redo all of this, especially because I don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. So it feels like huge and immediate for us right now, because it is, but it's because we're going through it. And I think the way that I am, I don't write about something until I've processed it. Like, that's when I talk about stuff. Like when I'm going through it, that's kind of like, it's too much. But once I'm on the other side, then it's like, okay, now I can include that thing. Or I can talk about that thing with other people. But that's how this feels to me now. Like, we just, I can't like write it set for next year. And it's like, and then everybody got the vaccine and everything was fine. Like, we just don't know. What is going to happen at all. I mean, the guy in the next book I'm writing owns a gym. Like, what is going to happen to gyms?
Oh God. And that's the ours that comes out next year that we haven't talked about yet. Part of it takes place like not in a coffee shop, but they go to a coffee shop every day, and that would be like completely different. It's like watching TV now, and we're just like, look at those people standing in groups. What are they doing? I actually am really curious to know the people who are watching what they think. Like, do they expect to see these things in books? Like, I'm like, someone just tell me what to do. So
I think once we're on the other side, I will feel comfortable at least referencing this time. Or, until we just like know what things are going to look like. Yeah. Even just by the end of this year. And I've even been looking in my current book for moments where I can mention stuff. Like, he gets off of a plane and it's like, okay, he could say something like, oh, not too many people are flying, or like he could be wearing a mask. If they needed him to. But those are just like very small things, like written in brackets as like a potential, just because that's me thinking about how I would do it. But
I love that. Like, so in the comments, people are like, it's too soon.
Too soon. I know. I kind of feel that way too. It's also like, if we were self-publishing something that was going to come out next month, then I think that might be a different story. But like what I'm writing now is not going to come out for a year. And there's no way to know where we'll be in a year. I mean, where we are now, I never would have imagined at the beginning of this year.
Never.
So I think we just need to get a little further past it before we can really start addressing it in our work. That's for me anyway.
I agree. Because even when I see like, 9/11 in a book, there's always a moment where I'm like, oh, whoa, like history. You know what I mean? And
honestly, still too soon for me.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's like what, almost 20 years. And
right.
If I know that a book is like centering around it, I'm like, okay, I'm not ready to read that.
Let's see. Okay, I'm going to look at some of these questions. Let's see. Alexis, I loved your book. I have a question and a comment. My comment: I so appreciated you addressing the fact that both Jasmine and Ashton were in therapy at the end. Yes, that was very good. I think it's so important to destigmatize this. And this is the first time that I saw this portrayed in leading characters. So thank you. And my question, how did you manage expectations growing up in a Hispanic family?
Oh boy.
That's a tiny little easy question.
Real easy question here. How did I manage expectations? Well.
Because that's a very good question. Yeah, that's a very good one.
I mean, there definitely are expectations. And also my mother was a teacher and my grandmother was a teacher. So there was this definite, like, very high standard that I needed to meet growing up. Mm-hmm. I have really struggled with perfectionism a lot in my life. And, you know, I started out as an artist. So I kind of did a lot of work on myself and kind of accepting, you know, that my work didn't need to be perfect and that it wasn't about just like the single piece, but like about the body of work. And then I kind of had to apply that same work that I was doing to how I approach my writing. Mm-hmm. And to just let go of those old beliefs. And I think that's what I try to do with my books, is to show these characters who have these limiting beliefs and how they're shedding light on them and learning to release them. Mm-hmm. So I think especially with, I won't say especially, but just in Hispanic families, in Latino families, like it can be a little harder to talk about that kind of stuff. You know, I have told my mom that I'm in therapy because she's brought up some stuff and I'm like, yeah, well, I'm in therapy now, Mom, thanks. My mom is lovely, like, but you know, stuff happens.
I'll be like, hold on a second. I'm just writing this down for my therapist.
Right. And I think for Jasmine and Ashton, it really made sense for both of them in terms of what they go through and the things that they have to work on, that this would be a thing that I would want for them, mm-hmm. For their own future happiness. And also because being in relationships is hard too. You know, and Ashton really did go through something and it's okay to get help. So I just wanted to normalize that. Like, it's not a big deal. It's not like she's got to like think about how she's going to tell her parents or anything. It's not anything like that. It's just, this is a thing that you can do and it's okay. It's a normal thing. You know, they both probably have good health insurance, maybe. Like, they can do this. So, yeah, Leah, I mean, I didn't tell my parents for a while. It took me a while to even be able to say it to other people other than like very close friends. But, you know, this is part of normalizing it. But I think especially with family, like you have to really consider when is the right time to say things.
Especially right now, I think everybody who's struggling. I remember at the very beginning of all of this, I was like, I am so anxious and sad and I can't pinpoint. Like, you're mourning a little bit for all the things that you know, that you didn't get to do, or you know, the things you expected to do. And so I tell everybody now, like, thankfully there are so many resources that people can, so many places that are offering free, like, online counseling and stuff. And I'm just like, if you need help, go get it. If you don't know where, ask somebody. So it was really great to see them. I remember there was a moment with Ashton when he's telling her about the break-in and stuff. And I was like, he has got some post-traumatic stress. Yeah. And I was like, I hope he doesn't like transfer that to his son. Like, that's what I kept thinking. And so towards the end, when she talks about them being in therapy and stuff, I was like so happy, especially just their jobs. Like, you just need somebody to talk about, like, that bad review is not me. It's the book. It's not me.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, also like separating your identity from the work, because it can feel so much like, this is me, like I'm putting myself into it. Mm-hmm. But, you know, it's not personal in that way. And I even through this, like, I'm so glad that I can have my weekly phone calls because it just gives me a space every week that I know I can look forward to. I mean, honestly, sometimes I'm just like, oh my God, I can't wait to complain to him about what just happened. Because he has to listen to me complain in a way that I don't want to make my friends.
I love that so much. I love that. Okay, let's see. Thank you, Alexis, for this great book. Question. I am wondering what inspired you to portray the difficulty with speaking Spanish when you grew up with parents, caregivers, family. I loved reading about Jasmine's insecurities and struggles with Spanish, especially since I have also struggled with my Spanish and my identity as a Latina.
That's why, because I have too. And that was something that I've realized as I've gotten older, because it felt very much like I was the only one. Like my mother works in bilingual education. So everybody that I would see with her, like her colleagues at work, in her school, like everybody spoke Spanish, and they would speak to me and I would just be like, I don't 100% know what you said. And then they were always like, oh, you don't speak Spanish. And I was like, talk to my mom about this. But then I did really pick it up in school, and I felt much more confident speaking it, because I grew up in a bilingual household, so I did have like the basics. But it's just been so long since then that now I still feel very uncomfortable. There's very few people who I'll speak Spanish with, and for me, it is a comfort level thing. And actually, that line where Jasmine says that her grandmother told her, she was like trying to gossip with her, and she was like, "You're hurting my ears." My mom literally said that to me.
Oh.
So when the last time I tried to speak Spanish to her, so I was like, I'm not doing this ever again. But there are, but I think it's a common thing, and it's more common than we realize. And also some of us, I think, do know more than we think we do. So I wanted to show those different levels of that. And Jasmine happens to be the one who's kind of, less fluent than her cousins, but also more than her brother, which is my situation too. Like my brother's 8 years younger than me. I don't think he knows any Spanish. But her other cousins do know a little bit more. So, there's just so many factors that go into it. I think if you are first or second generation, or if you're part of the diaspora, or if you came here when you were younger, and like whether your parents wanted you to have it or sometimes they didn't. There's part of my family where that happened as well. Like they purposely were not taught Spanish. So it's just, there's different experiences. And that's what I am really trying to show with my writing, is that Latinx people are not a monolith. And even within people of similar cultures, it's not all the same.
I mean, I love just when he was so shocked that she, was going to be in the show and didn't speak fluent Spanish. And I loved that she was just learning, and she wasn't even all that apologetic about it. She was like, I'm trying, And then also when she speaks Spanish during Dirty Talk. And he was so impressed by it. He was like, oh, she's serious.
Yeah. Yeah, and also showing again how she's comfortable around him now.
Exactly. Yes. Let's see. Hi, I loved everything about this book. I also particularly loved the way you wrote about mental health. Oh, wait, did I already do this one? No, it's just similar. I personally felt so validated by this as someone who has PTSD, and I'm a family therapist. Yay! How did you get the inspiration for that? Was it just drawing from your own life then?
Part of it was, especially for Ashton, I was like, this is part of his HEA, right? I think the happily ever after is not just about, the people being together romantically, but it's also about being better off than they started, feeling happier, feeling more accepting of themselves, having more success. And for him, that was part of that journey. But it's also that my therapist was like, you should write a character who goes through psychoanalysis. And I was like, okay.
See, I would be like, what are you trying to say?
He really wants me to write that into a book.
Okay, Alexis, from two fellow puzzle lovers, we have to know, where on earth did you get all the gorgeous puzzles you're doing?
So puzzles are like saving me right now. Puzzles and audiobooks. Also, I was listening to the Honey Don't list in audio, and it's so good. And I saw that your narrator on that was in Frozen on Broadway.
Yes, Patty.
Right? Wasn't she the original Anna?
Yeah. So
I saw her.
Oh my God. It was so weird how that happened. She tweeted us one day and we were like, oh my, what? She's reading our books, and we were freaking out. And then we went to New York, and she asked if we wanted to see Frozen, and we did, and we got to go backstage to meet her. And then she has such an amazing, like, expressive voice, and one thing led to another. And we were like, does she do audiobooks? And she was so thrilled that it was perfect timing because she just had a baby. And she just is like, she's so good. She's actually narrating our next book in the holidays.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's so great. That's so crazy to hear it and be like, where have I heard this before? Yes.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool because I was like, oh, I saw her in Frozen on Broadway.
Yeah, and it was perfect because she just finished, and then she like started this entire kind of second career of like doing audiobooks. So
I mean, it's something you can do at home.
Yes, it is. And since we're not there.
So yeah, puzzles. So listening to puzzles and audiobooks is like what's getting me through right now. So the puzzles, I did get some from Puzzle Warehouse, but they sometimes puzzles are selling out really quickly. So what I do now is I check Barnes & Noble on the website, every so often just to see what they have. Sometimes they don't have a ton of stuff in stock. Sometimes it feels like I'm scraping the bottom of the puzzle barrel. But then the other place is like toy stores, like fancy kids toy stores that have a website will sometimes have like some really nice puzzles, and they're not like, more expensive than they would be anywhere else. So I've gotten some from those too.
Okay, so I'm not a puzzle person. Lowe's family, whenever they go away, they put puzzles together. So earlier this year, we were like, I just have one daughter. She's 19, and she's home now, because she's doing school online and stuff. And we were like, let's do a puzzle. And there's something about puzzles that my brain just like, it just starts misfiring. It's like, I'm just like trying to cram pieces together. But my husband, it's like watching a computer, and he's just like doing a Rubik's Cube or something, and he just puts them all together. So are you like the giant puzzles, or are you like the smaller, more human, manageable puzzles?
So my boyfriend's grandmother, she passed away many years ago, but they were recently going through all her stuff, and they were like, do you want any of these puzzles? And she had like some like major ones, like 250, 2,500 piece kind of stuff. And I was just like, no, what am I going to do with a puzzle? Like, I could never envision a time in my life where I would have hours of time to sit there doing a puzzle and would want to. And then the pandemic happened, and I was just like sitting at home, like binge watching stuff, but also like that wasn't even helping. And I saw people online were doing puzzles, and I was like, all right, fine, let me buy a puzzle and see if that helps. Thinking that my boyfriend and I would do this together because he is like infuriatingly good at that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And he like won't do the puzzles with me.
Oh my gosh.
It's also that like our approach is different. So we like get into fights about it. Like when I'm like starting and sorting the pieces and looking for the edge pieces, he's just like, don't also try to sort other things. And I'm like, but if I'm going through every single piece, I should also sort them, right? So he will sometimes come along and finish them. Like he'll do, the hardest parts of the puzzle, which is fine. But otherwise it's just me and an audiobook.
So Sally Thorne has a dollhouse, and her and I talk. I am so fascinated with like dollhouses, and she was showing me how she like makes the little flowers and stuff. So I'm gonna order a dollhouse, and that's gonna be my thing this winter. And I was like watching YouTube videos today for like how you make the tiny little food, like little carrots and potatoes and like pot of stew. And I was like, I'm going to do this. Like, this is my thing. I'm going to do this. I wish it wasn't something I sat, because I sit too much anyway with my job, but that, And audiobooks. I love audiobooks so much. But if anybody, you should go look at Sally Thorne's Instagram and her dollhouse. It's a haunted dollhouse. It's crazy.
Yeah. I'm obsessed with her dollhouse. Like that was something, there were actually like some years ago, I told my boyfriend that was a hobby we should take up together. Cause he was an architecture major in school.
Oh yeah.
So like, opening a dollhouse would be no big deal for him. And I used to make like miniature, like clothes and furniture and food and stuff for my like Barbies when I was a kid. you know, with polymer clay and like all kinds of stuff. And I was like, this would be a fun thing we could do together. And he was like, are you serious? So we didn't do it. But I love looking at Sally's. She's got like a whole other Instagram account just for the dollhouse. It's like Blackthorn Manor or something like that. Oh, I just got it. It's Blackthorn, like Sally Thorne.
Yep. Oh, so I'm curious to know what's your favorite audiobook you've listened to? Like just like this year.
This year. Okay, well, I'm listening to Beach Read right now, which is great. Sorry, I'm gonna have to look.
No, I'm always like that. So I'm gonna say I listened to this partly on audiobook, and I'm one of those people that I will like buy the print book, but then I like the audio, but then I'll also buy the Kindle because sometimes I want the print, but then I want to keep reading, and so I do it while I'm doing the dishes, and they sync back and forth, and it's so great, and you know, it's a really great audiobook.
Oh, so Cassie just said Daisy Jones and the Six in the chat.
That's
yes,
so
I did
good.
listen to that one this year, and that is a great audiobook. I was like, how is this not real? And with The Fire on High, that one and The Poet X, both by Elizabeth Acevedo, like she's so good. I just listened to The 100,000 Kingdoms by N.K. Jemisin, which is great in audio. Also The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta, which is YA, but it's got like some parts done in verse, is really good. What else? I thought the Bromance Book Club was pretty good in audio too. I liked when they had like the two different guys. Oh, and the Ray Cass in audio, also great. Sorry, I'm just like going through my reading list.
No, totally. I listened to I Love to Have Into Hoax by Martha Waters. It is so cute. It's like a historical rom-com. It's adorable. Let's see, Alexis, what is your favorite type of cookie?
Chocolate chip. But like a moist one, not a crispy one.
Yes. Okay. We can be best friends. Let's see. Will we be getting any sequels? And you said the cousins are getting sequels.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Cassie says, Alexis, what's your favorite Celo book?
I mean, Honey Don't List, because I love things that have to do with television and like the whole aspect of like this codependent relationship that Carrie has, and like just I love the parallels there between, you know, the reality show and like what's going on behind the scenes. And you know, I love a behind the scenes story.
It's funny because when we were first pitching that book to our agent, it was going to be actors that have this thing, but we had just done a book about actors, and she was like, "What about like HGTV?" And we were just like, "Oh my god," because they just are so perfect, and so the idea of them not being quite as perfect is just like delicious.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else have you been reading, listening to? We just got your list. Alexis, do you write full-time or do you have a different full-time job?
So now I am writing full-time. I still have a few students. I was working as a private tutor for kids here in the city. And I have like, over the years that I've been publishing, like my workload, I've lessened it and taken on less students each year. So right now, I just have a homeschooled student because I've been working with him since he was 5.5 and now he's almost 12.5. So it would be hard to like stop working with them. And then one of my previous families actually just reached out to see if I could just like do check-ins with their student because it's hard with all the virtual stuff and like making sure they're doing their homework and stuff and like doing okay. And it's a little hard like to keep myself from like reaching out to other families and be like, hey, do you want me to just do these check-ins with your kids? Like, because a lot of them I've known for so many years now and I've worked with them for a long time, or I've worked with multiple children in the family. But I just like have so many books to write right now too. And I need to focus on that.
I used to work in a counseling center with junior high kids. And I worked full time right up until we had like I think like 6 or 7 books out. And then it was just too much. And I missed it so much. And I kept thinking I would go back and tutor, you know, or volunteer or whatever, but it's not the same. Like seeing them every day, you build a different relationship than just like popping in once in a while. So, yeah. And reaching out to people, I see Lo. I'm lucky. My daughter's in college. She doesn't need me for anything, but every morning Lo is like, the search for the Zoom link. And, you know, and so all you parents out there with kids, I'm just like hugging you from here.
Yeah. Wishing you all so much luck.
Yes. Okay. So what are we reading right now? So I am like a terrible romance community member because I just started the Immortals After Dark series by Cressley Cole, and Sarah McLean found out that I was just reading it. They have a whole podcast like dedicated to this series. So the fact that I'm just reading it, I'm surprised she's going to be my friend anymore. So I just started the first book today. So yeah.
I read the first one, but I did not continue with the series. Actually, it was one of my cousins who made me read the first one in the Immortals After Dark series.
Well, it's like, it's so intimidating. There's 18 books.
Oh my God. I didn't even realize
like, yeah, it's just, I see Leslie yelling at me. So, yes. But I love Cressley Cole, and I've read her contemporary, but I had not read this series, and everybody, I'm going to be shunned by the romance community. So,
I mean, I've only read the first one too, so you're not alone.
I am curious what you are working on now.
So I'm working on book 2 in this series, which is Michelle's book. And then I also have a cozy mystery to write.
Shut up. Okay, I love that. It's like Murder, She Wrote, like heart. I love that so much.
Yeah. So that.
Which do you prefer?
Romance.
Romance, okay.
Yeah, I don't know how I thought I was going to be able to get away with like not listening to like true crime stuff, because I really don't like true crime stuff. Like it freaks me out a lot, and I was like, you know, I could probably like just not do that. And I was like, no, I have to do that. Let's like research. And I actually did go through a point during the pandemic where I was listening to a true crime podcast like nonstop. Ola was like a Target pick, so they sent me all of these papers to sign for them to bind into the book. So I had like tons of papers. So I would just sit there listening to these like murder stories, like signing my initials over and over. And I thought I was okay. And then I realized I didn't want to go down to the basement to do my laundry anymore. Like, this is becoming a problem. So I need to stop listening to that. Now I really don't want to go anywhere.
No, also I love my favorite murder. I love it so much, but I'm like, am I like such a narcissist that I think that because I watched or listened to something scary, I am now going to die? Like last night I almost went to bed with my window open, and I'm like, I just watched the documentary about the Golden State Killer. What are you know?
I mean, I'm already paranoid about that kind of stuff, and like this just made it so much worse.
Yes. Oh my God. I think oh, go ahead. But
I had to do some research, like for Ashton, about like the worst celebrity stalker stories, and some of that stuff is like truly horrifying. Like Keira Knightley, there was this guy who used to like put stuff like in her mailbox or like send her packages of like tapes, and like he would like meow through the mail slot of her door, like weird. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Like not even like the worst thing that I found. And I was just like, okay, so basically anything I make up is not even going to be as bad as real life. Got it.
Oh my God. Oh God. Oh, okay. Let's see. Celo and Alexis, what is your writing process? What time of day do you typically write? Do you edit along the way or write first and then edit? I will say that we outline together and then we split it up and write. We write in order. We have a schedule that we have to finish each chapter by this day. And we have to because I have to write so she knows what comes before it. So I know what comes after. So like right now we're researching a book, and we have more time now than we've had for any other book. So it's kind of weird to have like some time. And then at some point we compile and we edit and edit and edit until we just cannot stand it anymore. And then we send it to pre-readers, and then we edit it again and edit more. And usually have to like rewrite a bunch.
I find this part fascinating. So you guys have a plan for who's going to write like which chapters?
Yep.
So you obviously then are outlining first, and then one of you writes the chapter, and then the next one, and then back and forth.
Yeah. So if it's an alternating point of view, then we usually will divvy it up by which voice sort of sounds like that person, or which one we are drawn to more, or which one I think like, you know what, this is like a nerdy person. They're super sciencey, smart. That's low. That's not me. You know what I mean? Like anybody who's really got their shit together, that is gonna be low. So yeah, we do that, and we usually I am the one who falls behind, but I try really hard to always hit that like chapter a week, or whatever it is that we're doing, because we have to give ourselves enough time to edit at the end. And Lo is like a spreadsheet queen, and so as much as I might be like, oh, spreadsheets, like she is what keeps this train going. So.
And how many books have you written together so far?
We have written 27, I think.
That's amazing. So by now, it probably feels like you've got it like.
No, we have no idea. We have no idea. Every time we sit down to write a book, we're like, how do you outline?
Yeah,
we're like Post-its, or like maybe if we write it on this big piece of paper, or yeah, we still have no idea.
Okay, because I feel like every book is different. Hi, Constance. Because we're almost out of time. Yeah, I prefer writing in the mornings, but then sometimes that just like doesn't happen. And then sometimes it's late at night, but I'm a plotter also. Like I do backstory scenes and scene cards and all of that stuff up front.
Yeah, we do all of that, and usually try to put like not only what happens in the chapter, but an emotional thing. So like where they emotionally should be at the end of the chapter in comparison to where they were at the beginning. Yeah, so we can tell if the chapter actually did anything.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what keeps it going, because otherwise, like, if they haven't changed emotionally, then like, why is it there?
Yep, exactly.
I hate to have to be the villain and end.
I know. I could ask you questions about writing process all night.
No.
I hate it. I like hearing you guys talking about writing. So I'm like, do I have to? Oh yeah, no. Well, it is that time of the evening, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen. But I just want to thank so much to our authors and all the amazing people who attended. You guys had awesome questions. And oh my gosh, thank you guys so much for sharing about books and what you're loving and reading and writing and just everything. This was such a lovely event. So a big thank you to Alexis and Christina. And to Lauren, who is out there on the internet somewhere.
Yeah.
Your presence was with us. We'll go with that. Your Excel-loving presence was with us in companionship along the event. But that is going to be it for tonight, everyone. Just as a reminder, if you want to order any of these amazing, awesome books, we have the link right down there for you. And you have up to a week for Alexis to put in your request for a personalized book plate. So, yeah, that is going to be it. Any final words from our authors or anything? Or
I just want to thank everybody and for all your questions, and to Alexis for taking the time to talk to me. I love the book so much. And we have in the holidays October 6th that you can pre-order from Mysterious Galaxy, and pre-orders get a special gift from us. And you can get it personalized.
Very nice. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight and for all of your wonderful and insightful questions. This was super fun. Christina, thank you so much for leading the conversation. It's very late for me in New
Yes,
York.
it is.
I'm a little punchy, but thank you all for just being so welcoming and wonderful.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much, guys. And we are going to say good night, and we'll see you all next time.
Thank you. Thank you, Safe
Thank you,
Galaxy.
Galaxy.